Today we're going to be installing the RealWheels EV stainless steel running boards on this R1T. We started by putting the truck up in high or highest just to give enough clearance underneath. We got all our tools gathered here. Stuff you're going to need: a 10mm socket, a TP or T20, a TP55, and then we have some other tools for tightening things up, 3/4 inch wrench, and some tools for cutting the trim panels. But let's get started. So underneath here, you see that you have these 3 plastic trim panels. Looking from the front to the back, we're going to start with our 10mm socket, and we're going to locate and remove these 3 bolts first. I got 2 up front and 1 in the rear, but simply just take them out. You could use power tools like we are, or you could go ahead and do this with a wrench or a ratchet and socket. But 2 in the first panel and then 1 back in the third panel, as you see. And now once you have those out, you're going to go ahead and put on your either T20 or TP20 Torx bit. Both work for this. The screw, I believe, is technically a TP20, but either one seems to work pretty smoothly. And you have these 2 right up front. You're going to go ahead and take those out. And then we're going to get ready to actually pull the trim panels down to access the mounting points. We like to open the driver's door to make this a little bit easier. But you want to start by pulling outward from the middle of the panels towards the outside, and then you're going to come down with the panels. Now you can see that Josh has a nice long handle screwdriver, just a flathead, and you simply go up right by the metal clips. As you make contact with the clip on the bottom side, you basically rotate, you twist about 90 degrees, and the clip will detach from its point where it's retaining there. We do the front to the middle, or front to the back, and then middle panels. You can see how he's pulling back here. You get access where the clips are. And now you get that screwdriver right up there against the clip and just simply rotate. And they will pop out, as you see. Opening that driver's door just lets you get your fingers kind of up there a little bit. To kind of pull from the front end, just make it a little bit easier. But pop all of these out, and then you can go ahead and set your panels aside. Now, what you see underneath is exactly what you should be looking at on your truck. We added some tape so you can see which bolts will be removed, but if you go based off these metal brackets, the little black ones, you're going to do the bolt directly before, in between, and after those brackets. So this is where you're going to use your TP55. We're using an impact. You could use a breaker bar or something else. But go ahead and start with putting that on there and remove the first bolt. Now you're going to take your brackets, which are marked driver, passenger. You're going to place the bolt through the bracket. Make sure the flange coming downward is towards the rear of the vehicle. Go ahead and start putting it in, but keep it a little bit loose. Now we provide this square. That's just to help align exactly where the bracket needs to go. So you can go ahead and tighten it up. Make sure everything is fully square and seated properly. And then move on to the middle bracket. Again, same thing. TP55, you're going to remove the bolt, get your bracket. Again, making sure the bracket has the bend towards the rear of the vehicle. Insert it, get it started, and you can snug everything back up. And then just before you go tight, again, get that square. That lines it up on that edge against the edge of the bracket and vehicle, and keeps it so everything is straight the way it should be. And then the last one, just after that black bracket, Same thing, remove, put it in, get it started, and then you're going to take the square once again. This one's right where the actual jack point is, so you want to make sure it's lined up just perfect. And now you should have your 3 brackets mounted on each side, or on this side. From the back to the front, you can see they're all in nice, clean, straight location. Now we come back with a torque wrench and set it to 80 foot-pounds and come back and hit all 3 bolts. You can see the green indicator on the handle once you're tight. It doesn't have to be as fancy as this. Any type of torque wrench will do, but 80 foot-pounds is the factory spec. Now it's time to trim the panels if you decide to put them back on. This is optional. We're going to put them on here, and we are going to do what we call our fine fit method. It's nice and tight around the bracket, but we also have a standard fit. To begin, you want to mark your panel. We're going to start with the number 2 panel, the middle, 26 and a 16th. We're going to put a mark right below the top rib and right above here, the 3rd rib. Now Josh is using some tape to make this easier to see. You can of course use a silver Sharpie or just put a little mark that you can see yourself. Now for the fine fit, you're going to actually have to do a little snip in this 3rd rib, approximately 3/4 of an inch, right around where you just did your mark. Snip each side, grab a pair of pliers and just twist, and it'll snap off pretty cleanly at the bottom. Now for the standard fit, right in the back side of that rib is where you would drill a 1/2 inch hole. For the fine fit, you can go a 5/16 right where the rib was. As you can see, line it up and go ahead and drill your hole. And then you're going to drill a hole just behind the 1st rib also. You're going to line up the end of your drill bit to be about flush with where that rib is. Now that'll be for both standard or fine. You can see we line it up, drill your hole right there. And now you're going to be ready to go ahead and actually flip the panel over, and we're going to connect the 2 holes and make a slot in the panel. So you want to first draw some lines to guide by. Now, there's a couple options to do this. We'll show you on each one here. Using just a simple straight edge and a marker, go ahead and take the 2 outer edges of the holes, place a line, and then do the same for the other side. Make a line. This will indicate your 2 cuts. Now we're going to use an oscillating tool here. You have plenty of options. You could use a Dremel, a jigsaw, even a razor blade. A little more work with a blade, but it is doable. But go ahead now and cut right along your lines using your hole as the start. See, Josh has a nice steady hand. Gives a good clean straight line. And then go ahead and do your second one, and this will reveal what the slot's like. You can see there's no reason to rush this step. You want it to look nice and clean. So we actually, after pulling this out, if you want to, go ahead and take a file. We like it to look pretty nice, but you can clean up the edges. Doesn't take much, not too much force, just break off the little burrs, the small pieces that are left. And you'll be left with a clean edge and about a perfect slot that's going to go right around your bracket. Well, once your slot's all set there, we're going to take the panel and you can actually put it back on the vehicle. Again, this is the number 2 panel, so it goes in the middle. We line up all those inner support tabs back in place, and then go ahead and slide it right over the bracket, and you can clip everything back in. You can see how clean and tight the actual fit is right over the bracket. Again, this is the fine fit, but it's looking good. Now moving back to the number 3 panel. This is on an R1T. R1S is slightly different looking here, but still the same measurements. you're going to go 5 7/16 of an inch. 5 7/16. Right behind that first rib, you want to make your dot. Then you're going to go ahead and do the same thing. Right behind the third rib, 5 7/16. Make your dot. You want to snip this, again, approximately 3/4 of an inch around that rear dot for a fine fit. And take away a section of the rib. For the standard fit, you don't have to. You could just go ahead and drill your 1/2 inch hole right behind the rib. But here we're doing the fine fit, so you want to snip, grab your pliers, and go ahead and make a little twist motion that'll snap out that center section of the rib, like so. And then 5/16 drill bit right in the center of where that rib just was, right there. Go ahead and drill your 5/16 hole. And your second one, right behind the first rib. Again, you're going to line up that drill bit, as you could see, basically flush with where the rib is, right in that edge. And then you can flip them over. And Josh is going to show you a different way here to make your lines. If you don't have, say, a silver Sharpie or something like that, you can use like 2 pieces of tape. And just line it up right on the edge of the 2 holes that you drilled, one on each side. And that's now giving you the guidelines to go ahead and cut. Now we're sticking with the oscillating tool. Again, jigsaw, Dremel, whatever seems to work best for you. But this is kind of a quick and easy way that we've been doing it. Now that you've made your slot in this one, you're going to go ahead and put it back in place. You want to line up the clips towards the back end of the vehicle. Place it right over your bracket, like so. And then go ahead and push and place all the clips back up. Now some of these, the inner edge does have tape on them. I believe it's on some of the earlier builds. Not all of them, but some do. Some have tabs. But go ahead and fit that right over. That looks nice and clean. Now moving on to the number 1 panel, the front panel. We're going to go ahead and measure at 3 5/16 of an inch, just behind that first rib. And then note, there is no middle rib here. It goes straight down to the third. So you're going to go between these 2 ribs, 3 5/16. Place your mark. Again, we're still doing fine fit, so we're going to make the snips here. Go ahead and drill our holes and get ready to put this right back up. Well, once you have your slot in there, we're going to go ahead and put the number 1 panel, the front panel, back in place. You want to start with all the inside clips, making sure that they line up. You have to almost kind of twist to get the panel back in place, making sure that it's seated properly. Once you do, slide it right over the bracket, and then you're going to push and pop in all the factory clips, making sure you have full retention. Get them all set back in place. You can see that we got a nice tight fit all the way across the board. Now we're going to go ahead and put the factory hardware back in place. Starting in the rear with the number 3 panel, go ahead and throw that bolt back in using the 10mm socket. And then you have the 2 up front and the number 1 panel. Put those back into location and tighten up. Just like so. Now you can switch back over to your TP20 or T20. And go ahead and put these screws back in place. They got the 2 right at the front edge. Just put those in and snug everything back up. And now you're going to be ready to go ahead and actually install the running board. Now we like to start by laying out our hardware. It's 2 of the carriage bolts, 2 of the nuts at each bracket location. Now Josh is showing you the method that he likes to use. go ahead and balance the running board on your knees. Get kind of into location here, and starting with the center bracket, you want to first make sure that the running board itself, the bend in the bracket, is in front of the body mount bracket. But go ahead and start with the rear bolt, put it through, and then just finger tighten the nut, and then do the second bolt. Not rear, I should say inward. And once you have those two on, the entire running board itself will be supported, so you don't have to hold it anymore. That's why we kind of start there at that location. And then moving back to the rear, you're going to do the same thing with the two bolts. Slide them in place and just finger tighten, as so. The carriage bolt, we like to put in from the front going towards the rear, so it gives you a nice clean airflow. And now moving up to the front bracket, you're going to do the same. Now, when we're doing this, we kind of line up the back edge of the bracket itself with the body mount bracket. Now, you do have some play. You can move these inward or outward. Just keeping everything centered lines you up pretty smooth with the tire. But again, you do have some movement inward or outward to go ahead and put the step wherever you like it for either a larger stepping surface or a little tighter fit up against the body. Now, once these are all in place, you're going to go ahead and get your 3/4 inch wrench or socket, and you can begin to snug up the bolts. We do the opposite of how we just did them. So getting it loosely mounted, we did middle, rear, front. Now we're going to snug them up, going from the front to the middle, or front to the rear, and then back to the middle. So go ahead and, again, you don't have to over tighten or anything just yet, but get everything snug so it's not going to be moving around on you. Do the same thing on that rear bracket, and you still have a little bit of movement, but you can kind of make sure once your front and rear are lined up with the where you like them, you know, if you're going smooth to the back of the body mount or not, the middle's going to kind of take care of itself. But go ahead and snug these up. And once you do that, you'll then be able to slide on over to the middle, and we'll get those snugged up as well. You can use power tools here. Again, we're not trying to over tighten anything just yet. We're just getting it all set so the bar is pretty much firmly in place. And then we'll come back here now and actually retighten every single one of the nuts. Make sure that they're fully tight. Yep, they're tight, Josh. But yeah, go back and tighten them all up, all 6. And once you have that, your board is basically set for this side. Go. 6th one, that's looking good. Now you've completed this side, go ahead and repeat the exact same steps for the other side, and you're all set. You have a nice clean looking running board. It'll make getting in and out of your vehicle, truck, or SUV so much easier. You can see a good clean fit, large stepping surface, supports your weight. You can jump on it, bounce around, not have any worries at all. Did a great job on the install. Congrats on your new boards.